by senior management, a lack of appropriate oversight by the board, and a systemic failure by the bank. As you're aware, both APRA and ASIC, in addition to AUSTRAC, are conducting their own inquiries. And APRA is doing that under the Banking Executive Accountability Regime that the Coalition introduced and that took effect in 2018. Together with the BEAR, the Banking Executive Accountability Regime, we've also increased both the civil and criminal penalties for misconduct in the financial sector. We've boosted the resources of our regulators. We're putting in place a criminal division of the Federal Court, and we're taking action on all 76 recommendations of the Royal Commission. And this week, I'll be introducing 2 pieces of legislation which will implement more of those Royal Commission recommendations.
Did you put pressure on Westpac that Brian Harper had to go?
I've had conversations with Westpac, and those discussions were constructive. I made clear the seriousness of those issues, but also the bank itself and the board itself has been having many meetings, including with its own shareholders. And in a conversation this morning with the chairman, he told me before the public announcement of what was to take place.
Do you think it's appropriate that Mr. Harper is leaving with 12 months pay, some $2.7 million?
Well, issues of remuneration and pay for our senior executives of our leading banks are matters for shareholders, and of course the board, and the board will be facing the shareholders on December the 12th.
Last week you said that it was inappropriate.
Westpac's statement on the weekend said that it had been cooperating with AUSTRAC, yet AUSTRAC obviously came out and levelled those civil charges. Does that suggest that perhaps that statement wasn't entirely true?
Oh, look, you'll have to direct questions of that nature to AUSTRAC. I have spoken to the head of APRA today, Wayne Byers, and I know that he's conducting his own investigations, but a question like that needs to be directed at AUSTRAC.
Joe, what would you say?
Sorry.
No. To be saying that the board needed to do anything. What changed your mind?
Well,
also,
our
at some
message has
point,
been consistent and clear. Decisions about who are on boards are matters for shareholders. Decisions about who are on senior management teams are decisions for boards. But these alleged breaches are of the most serious nature, and there needed to be accountability. So you heard very strong language from our Prime Minister, from myself, and from other ministers about the seriousness of these issues and the need for accountability at the bank. I also want to point out that our financial services sector contributes about 10% of GDP, employs more than 400,000 Australians. It's a vitally important sector to our economy, and we need to continue to ensure that they uphold the highest standards of professionalism, but also that we have strong financial institutions, because it's our banks that ensure the flow of credit to households for their mortgages and for other borrowings, and to businesses as they continue to innovate, to expand and grow. So it's very important that we have a financial services sector that not only upholds the highest standards of professionalism, but that continues to prosper and to support the Australian economy. Phil.
Based on the comment you just made, and Harper saying this is not an end, are you confident this one will affect the structural integrity of Westpac and its ability to basically function as one of the big four?
I don't think it will compromise Westpac's ability to continue to be an important financial service provider in this country. Let's not forget, it's Australia's oldest bank. And let's not forget that millions of Australians have transactions with Westpac and rely on them to be holding their savings or to be providing them with loans to grow their business. These are going to be pretty difficult days, not just for the board and for the management of Westpac, but no doubt for its thousands of employees across the across the company.
Treasurer,
But it will get through it, and it will continue to play a vitally important role in our economy.
Treasurer, what would you say to people who are watching the Royal Commission into Banking with optimism, hoping that things would change, only to find out that some of these misdeeds are happening all through this year, in fact as recently as September, and that there doesn't appear to have been any change whatsoever?
Well, the first thing I'd say is these allegations, alleged breaches that have been detailed by Austrac go back to 2013. The second thing I'd say is the Royal Commission did shine a very bright light on misconduct in many different areas of our financial services sector. And as a result, Commissioner Hayne made 76 recommendations, and we've been moving ahead with implementing those recommendations, and I put out earlier this year a very detailed timetable for that implementation, including seeing around 90% of those recommendations either implemented or with legislation before the Parliament by mid next year. And of those 76 recommendations, 54 were to government, 12 were to the regulators, 10 were to industry, and I know that our regulators, our industry and the government are all working to implement them.
So is it just a case of just wait and see to those voters?
Sorry, I just one at a time.
Would you just say to those voters, just wait and see if changes are implemented? Is that what you're saying?
I'd say to those voters and to all the viewers and listeners that the government believes those alleged breaches against Westpac were the most serious in both nature and number. And there needed to be accountability, and we have seen today the bank remove its CEO immediately and take steps to bring forward the departure of its chairman. And now the people of Australia, the customers of Westpac, will be looking to that company to ensure an improved performance going forward.
Treasurer, the two products that allowed these breaches to take place were specifically designed to get around the SWIFT system that's been around since the 70s. Is it time to take a look at all products that try to do that?
Well, issues about the nature of products and their appropriateness are for regulators, and as we know, Austrac have taken their action, as well as APRA and ASIC are undertaking their own. Any other questions? Sorry.
Did Mr. Byers tell you that the bear could definitely be used in this case?
Well, as you know, the bear came in from mid-18, and he says that it does apply to some elements of these issues, but it's not retrospective. So he's working that through with the members of his team.
I was just going to ask, Josh, does any investigation also need to take into account Gail Kelly's tenure at the bank?
Again, issues for investigations are matters for our regulators.
If I may ask just one last question, it's a bit left in the field with the Business Council today at the Press Club. They're asking for more investment regionally, but particularly incentives to fast-track planning improvements and more targeted infrastructure funding.
Yeah.
Or our regions are going to fall behind, and the economy with it. What's the response to that?
Well, the first thing I'd say is a lot of the planning approvals are given at a state level, and at the recent KIFA meeting, which is the Council of Treasurers that at both the federal and the state and the territory level, we came together to discuss planning approvals, and the states are focused on those. We're also looking at environmental approvals, particularly for some large projects, and the Prime Minister in his BCA speech outlined how, as a part of our deregulation agenda, we can move those forward, because we've used the example before, but Sir R.V. Pavo with a nickel mine in the Pilbara in the 60s took only 18 months from the discovery of that resource to its production. Go forward a few decades, and Roy Hill and that particular project, which saw the creation of more than 5,000 jobs, took a number of years before that important project could get up and running. And those delays cost jobs, and they cost the budget, and they cost our resources sector in particular.
Are you aware of any other investigations?
Sorry.
Are you aware of any other investigations?
Look, other investigations are matters for our regulators, but Austrac have put the focus on these companies to ensure that they're doing the right thing. So, as for that, I would leave that to the regulators.
Sorry, Treasurer, I have one more as well.
Last
Are
one.
you able to tell us, going back to your time as Environment Minister, when you first became aware of Angus Taylor's connection to Jamland?
Before he had the meeting, and I've said that publicly on the record.
Sure,
Thank you.
There was a question today back on notice from the department saying they became aware in December or November 2016. The meeting was in March. you were aware before that? Can you remember what time specifically?
Well, I've already answered that, but what I can say is this is a mud-raking exercise on behalf of the Labor Party and the Greens. Angus Taylor has given a full statement to the Parliament, and he's made it very clear that he was advocating on the behalf of his constituents, and he's not the only one who's been advocating on this issue. We've known the Farmers Federation and others have made it very clear their concerns. Thank you.